Good afternoon, everybody. Back to making videos again. Feeling a little bit actually not feeling bad actually today. Today's pretty good. You see my little moment there where I just kind of like, oh well, you know what? Let's just adjust my framework here and be like, hey, life's going well. But I do want to bring up, and I do want to talk about this because I did bring it up on Twitter, or I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, and I figured it'd be a really fun time to talk about extroverted intuition. And I think it's because for some of the folks, I know I talk about it a lot because it's my dominant function, but this time I'm gonna tackle it from another system. Like I hope I'm not super blending into systems because I don't really want to make it too muddy, but there is aspects about extrovert intuition that I just want to bring up for people's future reference. Extroverted intuition is basically kinesthetic learning, but for intuitives. So what that means, and I remember having this conversation with a couple INTPs actually, was in the fact that kinesthetic learning, which is kind of like using your whole body to kind of make sense of what you're learning, is usually attributed to extroverted sensing, which is more of the physical aspect of a lot of things. Kinesthetic learning for intuitives is basically extroverted intuition, because when you really look at it from the perspective that it's all about having to, create this chaos first. And I say this a lot. I always talk about creating chaos first and sorting through sorting through the mess. And that's kind of how my mind works. So trying to think of a good example at the moment as I'm saying this. A lot of it is mostly, like, for example, like when they say brainstorming is very NE, and I think it's only talking about like a part of NE, which is kind of the initial stage where we kind of have to crowdsource, whether that be in, socially or conceptually, just all these ideas outside of us. And after that, that's when we finally start pulling things together and finally start making sense of it with our other functions. So NE's job is basically to create this expansive mass in front of us. Now, when it comes to learning, it can actually be really difficult when it comes to learning, because the learning style tends to be quite a bit, how do I put this, challenging for us. And for us NE users. I don't know so much about the ENTPs, but for ENFPs, I believe that there is a learning curve that we have to kind of get over, and it's difficult for us to kind of wrap our minds until we've done the hard part. A lot of us is very like, have to learn it hard first, and then then we slowly start to get used to it. So what that means is, for example, like, let's say a person who is an SI dominant or secondary SI, who was better to gauge his perception on situations that require comfort, that would probably make him a lot more equipped to handle steps and details, because they're, these are things that they are taking note of. For extrovert intuition, like high tier, or in socionics ego block NE, it's really hard for us to kind of wrap our minds unless things are already expanding, and we can finally, like, we have to be aware of that. We have to create that mess first and then work our way backwards. A lot of it is working backwards. A lot of it is working to complicate situations. The best way I think I could say is, I was working as a technician before, and what my trainer would do for me was he would show me this, and he would tell me not to do a certain aspect because it would lead to certain outcome. What I would do instead is, while he was in my presence, I will do said outcome in order to create the scenario that I am told will be to expect. Reason being is, if I don't, my NE would start reacting to the possible outcomes that aren't present, which is only going to serve to distract me from the actual job itself, which is going to detract me from the focus that I am required to demonstrate for the job. So much to the disappointment as well as the confusion of my my superiors, sometimes creating these scenarios, I, in a sense, almost as if I'm trying to speed up the process of learning for myself, because I know that if I didn't, I would still have to suffer regardless, because of the pathways of my learning style is completely just really sad. This is like a really sad way to learn and to take something like this, but here we are making it happen. Now, another funny thing though with NE and the learning style of kinesthetic learning, it actually makes us rather quick in certain aspects. While we may not be, upfront with, and taking into action as SE would be. Like, it's not that we are, we can't necessarily be capable of picking up a certain tool and creating, anything out of it. Whereas we'll pick up a tool and we'll imagine ways of something would happen. The skill set of NE actually starts when we take advantage, is it takes advantage of the fact that once the chaos has been created, we've already created that mental note, and we can start forming connections rather quickly. And the more connections we create, the more expansions we have, the more accurate or likely our conclusions tend to be, which me now is very surprised because I grew up, or I grew up, or whatever the term is, never really trusting my extrovert intuition. And I know it's my dominant, but I kind of felt like it's a joke. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the times it's the most impractical function. So I never have to it's always been a source of a lot of my problems. It's always been a source of why I can't get some stuff done. It's a source of why I can't seem to do what I need to do, because a lot of the times I'm distracted by possibilities. And no matter how many times people tell me, hey, you gotta just ignore everything around you, ignore all of these things, and just focus. And the thing is, to me, that's not the best way to tell me, because I don't just focus. The focus is divided, and it will always be divided. So how I'm gonna make peace with that kind of concept was actually to kind of realize that my entire mindset needs to get that done and then get it out of the way, because it demands priority. Don't really know how that started, but it really did, and it's I'm paying for it now as an adult. Yes. Anyways, I've had my mom bring it up. She's like, oh, you're just always distracted, you're always delaying. And I'm like, no, it's just I have NE to consider first. Anyways, while that's being said and done, the more expansive you let an NE user be and become is when it starts to get real good. So apparently my observations tend to be real accurate only after I've completely absorbed so much NE in my lifetime. If I've absorbed so much information, the patterns I can draw are now so quick because I now have kind of muscle memory, but for my brain. So anytime someone says something, I can instantly relate it to a past memory, a past and this is an SI, by the way. I'm just connecting neurons in my brain, just connecting these things, and they go in this. I don't know how it is biologically. I'm just gonna make up some stuff maybe, where you just you start sending signals, and it's just really quick, and I can recall situations that may or may not be relatable, but because I had so much NE, I can now imagine. My imagination tends to be closer and closer to what I need to think about. So it becomes less strenuous and more fun. So yay for that. So part of this video, there's a little bit of an advice for for fellow NE DOMs likely, because y'all NE auxiliaries, y'all can already control NE with creative, a zero creative function. For us, it has to live in it, breathe in it. It's kind of oh, I have to learn how to do this. And more on that for another video probably. But we kind of have to keep pushing ourselves to kind of force ourselves to open up ourselves to more possibilities, which is funny because it's I don't know, but sometimes I guess we delude ourselves into thinking that we've opened ourselves enough and that we take pride in our extrovert intuition, but that is not the case. That is not the truth. The truth is that we actually are not done. We're not done with our efforts. We're not done with our work. We still need to keep going. And the more we keep taking, the more we get better. And so that's a thing that we really need to start, get that into your brain. We are not done with, you're done when we die. As an ENFP, or maybe even as an ENTP, we are not done until we die. The brain will always continue to absorb, and it's a major strength of extroverted intuition. we have to keep consuming. We cannot and shouldn't stop. And to kind of deny that may not be the best. I'm trying to turn right there, but turns out that ain't happening. So it's just maybe a little reminder for, I guess, other NE users out there. They're like, hey guys, like, keep doing what you do, but you gotta do it right. Because if you refuse or get, sad or disappointed in yourself, and then you don't do what you need to do, that can pay a toll on yourself. And we need way more NE than we actually thought we did. And we thought that we probably had absorbed enough. No. There's way too much happening in the world. We need to take more. So with that, being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, this little tidbit of me just blabbing blah blah as I usually do. And I hope you guys really enjoy the rest of your day. So, thanks. Bye.